The siren exploded like a scream, and the yard at Pelican Bay turned into a storm. Men dropped to the ground, officers shouted, "Down! Down! Face the dirt," and the loudspeaker crackled, "Code Blue, Facility Yard." In the middle of the chaos, two groups rushed each other near the pull-up bars, bodies colliding, gravel flying. A guard tower spotlight snapped on, cutting a hard white circle through the gray morning fog. An officer's voice boomed from the tower, "Stop! Now!" But the wave didn't stop. The yard gate clanged, more officers poured in with shields, and the siren kept wailing. A radio hissed, "Lockdown! All units!" Then, silence for a heartbeat, before a single command hit the air like a hammer, "Less lethal ready." The scene froze in that sharp light. One man looked up, shook his head once, then stepped forward anyway. The tower officer steadied his aim. And just as he yelled the warning, the view went white. Cut. How did it come to this? Hours earlier, the same yard felt tired and slow. Cold ocean air rolled in from the Pacific, pushing a fine mist across the fences. The day began with count. Doors opened by the second, chains rattled, and men stepped out in rows. Breakfast had been quiet: oatmeal, a banana, a small carton of milk. Most kept their eyes down. At Pelican Bay, you learned to read the air. Today it felt thin, like a wire stretched too tight. Marcus, a lean 40-something with close-cropped hair, walked the track the way he always did, clockwise, steady pace, hands behind his back. He had a rule for staying alive: don't hurry, don't stare, don't drift. He nodded to Nate, a younger guy from Fresno who liked push-ups and kept a tiny folded prayer card in his pocket. Nate nodded back, then dropped for another set, counting soft, 7, 8, 9, from the tower. Officer Caldwell scanned the yard. He had learned the Pelican Bay rhythm: quiet, et, quiet, then a spike. He looked for clusters, for sudden stillness, for eyes that wouldn't look at him. He keyed his radio. Yards open. All stations stand by. His partner, Alvarez, didn't look away from the spotting scope. Row by the pull-up bars, Alvarez said. Too tight. At the far fence, two men spoke without moving their faces. Their shoes dug little grooves in the gravel. One flicked his eyes toward the track. Another touched his shoulder twice and stepped away. No words. At Pelican Bay, orders can be smaller than a breath. The morning crawled. A game of handball thumped like a heartbeat. The far wait station clanked. A white gull landed on the fence post and watched everything with a tilted head. The gull didn't know about lockdowns, or gang kites, or how a rumor from last week could turn into a yard story today. It only knew the wind. Marcus kept walking. He counted laps instead of minutes. Lap 3, he passed a group trading jokes. Lap 4, the jokes were gone. Lap 5, people were spacing out, the way flocks do right before they turn. He felt it before he saw it, how the sound changes when something's about to happen. His neck prickled. He glanced at Nate. Nate didn't notice. He was writing something small on the back of his prayer card with a golf pencil no longer than a finger joint. Marcus, someone murmured behind him. He didn't turn. Yeah. Stay clear, the voice said. North corner. Then the steps faded. Officer Caldwell saw the shift too. The men near the pull-up bars weren't working out anymore. They were facing in, shoulders hunched. Alvarez called it. We got stacking. North corner. Caldwell's thumb hovered over the radio. He knew the rule: call it too early, you look jumpy. Call it too late, people get hurt. He watched for one more cue. It came fast. A man tugged his sleeve once, signal ready, and another stepped half a pace forward. The air snapped. Caldwell hit the radio. All units, eyes north. Possible move. The yard speaker clicked, program. Keep moving. But the line near the pull-up bars thickened, then broke apart into pieces that ran. Nate stood. His pencil fell. Marcus pulled him by the elbow. Walk, he said, voice low. Do not run. They moved to the wall, backs to concrete. The yard didn't explode yet, it folded, like a map closing, crowds tightening, lanes forming, officers angling for space. Somewhere a whistle blew. Somewhere a gate buzzed, then the first shove. Then the second. Then the rush. Caldwell swung the spotlight, bathing the north corner. Alvarez worked the scope. Hands. Hands. The tower speaker barked, down. Now. Some men dropped, palms out. Others didn't. Caldwell's chest tightened. He thought of the tower checklist he had memorized his first month: warn, escalate, control, and he thought of the faces on the ground who were doing what he'd asked. The problem with a riot is not the first minute. It's the third, when everyone believes they're already inside it. On the gravel, Marcus was now crouched, one arm across Nate's chest. Eyes front, he said. Don't look at nobody. Nate's breath came fast. He tried to pray, but the words ran together. On the fence, the gull lifted one foot and settled again, head cocked at the siren that had just started to wail. Lockdown orders hit the radios like hammer strikes. Gates clanged, doors slammed, and the officer line formed: helmets, shields, batons, pepper launchers. The tower's white spotlight drilled into dust kicked up by shoes. Stop now, the amplified voice boomed. Stop. It didn't stop. Caldwell saw a man break from the pack and lunge. Training took over. He set his stance, braced, and shouted the last warning. The yard. Pulled in a breath. Less lethal ready, someone called below. Alvarez drew a line with the scope and said, Tower has it. White light. A blast. The siren swallowed the sound, time bent. Bodies dropped. Others froze. A hand slid open and a small metal object fell into the gravel, tumbling end over end until it stopped at Marcus's shoe. He stared at it without moving. In his head, he counted, 1, 2, 3, to keep his face calm. Nate squeezed his eyes shut. The gull finally took off, wings spread wide like a sheet shaking loose. Officers surged. Commands layered over commands. The smell in the air turned sharp. A medic cart rolled, bouncing on the yard cracks. The speaker kept repeating the words everybody already knew: down. Down. Face the dirt. Then it was quiet. Not real quiet, the kind with radios and boots and breathing, but the other kind, when the choice has been made and the next choice hasn't come yet. That's when Marcus saw something beyond the officers, past the pull-up bars, near the north wall. A narrow side gate that should have been shut was not shut. It stood a hand's width open, just enough to show the black seam behind it. No one else seemed to notice. The gate moved once, barely. Someone on the other side moved it back. Marcus looked at Nate. Don't look, he whispered. Hear me? Don't look. He kept his eyes straight ahead and waited for an officer to see what he'd seen. Nobody did. The siren cut. The spotlight dimmed to a softer cone. The radio traffic thinned. An officer called for a head count. Men were ordered to crawl to the chalk line, hands out, faces down. The yard turned into numbers and names. Caldwell lowered the scope and rubbed the bridge of his nose. You good? Alvarez asked. Caldwell nodded, then glanced across the fence line and frowned. North Service Gate, he said. Check that latch. He reached for the radio again. Before his thumb found the button, the gate shifted a second time, just a breath, and from that dark seam came a sound not even the siren could swallow, the hard, quick clack of a second lock sliding home from the outside. Who was on the other side of that gate, and why were they locking it now? The silence after the riot was heavier than the noise itself. The siren had stopped, the radios had quieted, but Pelican Bay still felt alive, breathing through the hum of generators and the crunch of boots on gravel. The fog was thicker now, pressing low over the yard like a lid. Marcus and Nate were face down on the cold ground, wrists zip-tied behind them. A correctional officer's shadow moved over them, flashlight beam cutting across their backs. Don't move, the officer said. Stay still. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. The riot squad moved in formation, collecting fragments of chaos, broken broom handles, a torn shoe, a piece of metal that had once been part of a weight bench. From the tower, Caldwell scanned the north fence again. The gate he'd seen open before was now locked tight, the padlock hanging neatly in place, as if it had never been touched. He felt a knot in his stomach. Hours later, the inmates were lined up and marched back into C-section. The sound of chains and boots echoed through the concrete tunnel that led from the yard to the housing units. Each step was counted, each man's number called out twice. 349, clear. 350, clear. When they reached the block, the smell hit, disinfectant and steel mixed with the sharp scent of pepper spray still clinging to uniforms. Inside his cell, Marcus sat on the edge of his concrete bed. Nate was in the next cell over, pacing slow circles. They didn't talk. Talking after a yard riot could get you labeled. In Pelican Bay, silence wasn't just safety, it was survival. A distant buzzer sound. Dead, followed by the clang of doors sealing. Lockdown was official. From the control booth, Officer Caldwell watched the cameras flicker. Each small black and white feed showed a cell, men sitting, lying down, staring at nothing. He switched to camera 12, the north corridor view, and stared at the frame. There, at the far edge, the maintenance gate was still visible. Clean. Normal. Too normal that he keyed the mic, control to yard crew, check gate 9 padlock integrity. A pause, then static. Gate 9 confirmed secure, sir. Caldwell frowned. Copy, he said, but didn't believe it. Meanwhile, Marcus leaned back against the wall and stared at the vent above his bed. A slip of paper had been tucked behind the grate, so small he might have missed it if not for the draft making one edge flutter. He pulled it out, careful not to tear it. It was a kite, a note, folded tight like origami. The handwriting was cramped, written in pencil, north wall. 9 gate. It wasn't us. He froze. The handwriting wasn't from his group. Whoever wrote it knew about the open gate. He folded the paper again, slower this time. He didn't hide it right away. Instead, he stared at it under the low light, trying to make sense of what "it wasn't us" meant. If not the inmates, then who? In the unit control room, Alvarez leaned back in his chair. You think it was outside help? He asked Caldwell quietly. Caldwell didn't answer right away. If someone opened that gate, he said, they had keys or clearance. That's not an inmate thing. Alvarez nodded. Maintenance maybe. Or transport. Caldwell's jaw tightened. Maintenance doesn't come during yard time. And transport hasn't run through B-yard in 3 days. He turned to the screen again. Something's off. Back in his cell, Marcus hid the kite behind a loose tile near the sink. He'd seen what happened when officers found notes. Strip search, cell TOS. Hours in the cold holding cage. He wasn't risking that. Hey, Nate whispered through the vent. You see what they were fighting over? Marcus shook his head. Didn't look like a fight. Looked like a message. What you mean? He paused. I mean somebody wanted a distraction. The next morning, the intercom buzzed at dawn. All units remain on lockdown. No yard, no showers. Meals in cell. The voice was flat, official. But the tone told everyone what they already knew. Something big was under review. Officers rolled carts down the hallway, sliding trays through slots. Cold eggs. Dry toast. A carton of milk. Nate pushed his tray aside and leaned on the wall. You ever think we'll get out this place? Marcus stared at the floor. You don't get out, he said softly. You just move cells. Down in administration, the warden held a briefing. Yesterday's incident was not spontaneous, he said. We've confirmed contraband communications prior to the event. The gate latch anomaly is under investigation. Anomaly? Caldwell repeated under his breath. The warden continued, no staff injuries. 2 inmates hospitalized. Investigation ongoing. No external breach detected. That last part didn't sit right with Caldwell. He'd seen the gate move with his own eyes. By afternoon, investigators were combing the yard. They took photographs, measured footprints, bagged pieces of gravel for DNA testing. The news wasn't public yet, but rumors had already reached the other wings. Some said a gang tried to hit another group, others said a guard had been targeted. The truth, as usual, was quieter and stranger. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. The overhead light stayed dim. Every 20 minutes, the officer walked past, his keys clinking like clockwork. Marcus lay still until the sound faded, then reached for the vent again. The kite was still there. He unfolded it one more time. The handwriting looked shakier now, as if the writer had rushed. He traced the words with his finger. North wall. 9 gate. It wasn't us. The vent rattled slightly. Air pressure shift. Someone on the other side had opened their vent too. Then came a whisper, low, almost lost under the hum of the air system. You saw it too, didn't you? Marcus froze. Who's that? He whispered back. The voice answered, doesn't matter. They'll blame us either way. Who's they? A pause. Then, not the inmates. Before Marcus could reply, the vent snapped shut. He sat there, heart pounding, the note still in his hand. The words on it felt heavier now, like a secret too dangerous to exist. At 2 a.m. Officer Caldwell switched to camera 12 one last time. The north gate shimmered in the fog. He leaned closer. Something glinted on the padlock, small, bright, circular. He zoomed in. It was a maintenance tag. But not the right color. Someone had replaced the lock. By morning, the yard would be calm again, reports would be filed, and Pelican Bay would look the same. But behind its quiet concrete walls, 2 men, a guard and a prisoner, were thinking the same thought. If the riot wasn't what it seemed, then what exactly had just begun?